a new governor. So someone's in here today. A lot of my friends have been saying, An0maly, you gotta talk to this guy. An0maly, you gotta talk to this guy. So he's very popular on the outskirts. Okay, so I'm bringing him in. His name is Anthony Trimino. I don't know much. I'm about to find out. So I'm gonna conduct a little interview conversation. Be on in a few seconds. Thank you guys for the badges. Someone said, marry me maybe after the stream. Just kidding. Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
good. How are you?
Life is good. So I've been hearing a lot about you. The block's hot, as they say. The word on the street. Everyone said you got to interview this guy, and it wasn't just you got to interview him. Seems like some people that I know that are very involved in politics and very authentic people are very into you and very into your campaign. So congrats on the grassroots effort, and I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I got a call right now and said, "Hey, I need you to get on and I need you to talk." I was like, "Yeah, I heard a lot about you as well, so happy to be chatting with you."
Thanks for
I'm
coming.
actually, yeah, I'm actually in my car in the parking lot right now, so excuse the fact that I'm not in a more stable place, but
Oh no, I
we'll
appreciate it.
make
I'm
it work.
thank you too because I'm bad with scheduling and I'm kind of random. It's a pro and a con. But I was like, I was talking to my buddy Jesse, and I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna be live in 2 minutes. If he can get here in 2 minutes, I'll talk to him. So that's what it is. Yeah. So I guess in like a minute or so, just let me know. This is gonna be a generic question, but you're running for the governor of California. There's 50 or so candidates. Why should I or the people of California vote for you?
Yeah, so I'm not a politician. I'm not a celebrity. I'm an entrepreneur. My grandfather fled communist Cuba in the 50s, came to the United States and to California to pursue the American dream. Didn't want to depend on the system, so he became an entrepreneur, instilled that spirit in my father, who still runs the company he started 45 years ago. Instilled it in me. I started a business 20 years ago, small little 200 square foot office with nothing. We had humble beginnings. I built that company up to now what Inc. magazine considers one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America. That's what we need. We need innovation in Sacramento. We don't need politics. We don't need celebrities. We need somebody who understands how to get the right people to the table to solve these problems. So we need an entrepreneur. We need to break things down and reconstruct them in different ways. And I have no personal there's no selfishness in this. I have so much more to lose than I have to gain here. But we were on our way to we were leaving California. We were on our way to Florida, and we decided to stay and fight instead. And somebody needs to stand up for our freedoms, our children, our churches, our businesses, and that's what I'm doing.
Cool. And what is the business that you ran? Excuse me for not knowing, but yeah,
That's right.
what do you do, and how like you could talk about the success of that? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah. I run an ad agency, so we basically work with Fortune 500 companies around the globe and innovators, startups, and people that are just bringing new products and technologies and services to market, and we help them brand and we help them connect with their audiences, and yeah, so it's traditional advertising agency.
Okay, so I guess someone said, "What are your policies?" I'm gonna do a joint question of like, what are some policies that come off the top and say, if you get into governor, I understand you're not an authoritarian unless you decide to, declare an emergency order and go crazy like the rest of them. But I know that there's a process and stuff. But what off the top are like the first five things that come to mind that you would do in office, and then combine that with your policy situations?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first thing I'll do is I'll reverse a lot of these radical ideologies that are being taught in our schools, like critical race theory. We have third graders that are being taught how to masturbate and question their sexuality. So we'll put a freeze on all that and we'll stop it immediately. Second thing, and just as important, is with vaccines. I believe that vaccines should be a choice, not a mandate. So I would do away with any of these policies that are being implemented to basically force compliance on people. And the whole idea of a vaccine passport, I would kill those ideas out the gate. I'm pro small business. I'm pro choice. I mean pro life. I'm pro life. And I believe that we need new solutions to some of the problems we're facing. So a lot of the talk right now in California is around like water as an example. And so part of what we're doing right now is we're working with innovators, inventors, engineers to create solutions, sustainable solutions to some of these problems that politicians can't even think of. That
Mm.
politicians put restrictions and regulations in place so that innovators can innovate. So, like, just quickly, I'm working with an inventor that is able to take solar power, convert it into hydrogen, and then the generators that are used to take that hydrogen energy produce atomic water, which is clean drinking water. Now, that the biggest plant of its kind is being established in Mexico right now because the United States won't have it because of regulations and restrictions. So it's things like that will innovate. And then the last thing, and one of the most important things too, is our taxes. We pay too high of taxes, the highest in the country. So my plan is to eliminate our income tax, and we're going to do that by auditing the state. We're going to eliminate a lot of these programs that don't do anybody any good, and then we're going to start to generate money, just like an entrepreneur would think. So I have ideas on how California could actually generate income. So between generating income and lowering our expenditures, I'll be able to eliminate the income tax.
Okay. I have a few questions, and I'm actually reading some of the questions in there. Thank you guys for those, because I'm gonna bring those into some of your questions. Two-part question is, homelessness is a huge problem in California. Great answer, by the way. I think a lot of those, the medical freedom is great. The business stuff's excellent. Homelessness is out of control, especially in Los Angeles, but even in Orange County, even definitely in San Francisco and all over the state, San Diego. How do you think you could solve that, or at least curtail it? And also, what do you think the problem is? I know you said, they're not business owners and it's a lot of bureaucrats, but what do you think the problem is, and what's the holdup in California? And then what's your homelessness kind of plan?
Yeah, so what government traditionally likes to do is they like to take our taxpayer dollars and they like to try to reinvent the wheel, right? And we tend to overpay people to provide solutions that already exist. So I've been working with companies all across the state, from San Diego to San Francisco, that are already nonprofits, feet on the street. They have mental health workers, social workers ready to actually house and clothe the homeless, but they have no government support, no government visibility, and no government funding. So rather than getting into office and creating, new solutions to old problems, we would identify these organizations that already exist throughout the state. We would fund them, we would back them, and then we would, just like a business, we would help them to scale. A lot of these nonprofits are good, but they can only focus on, say, a city or a county at a time because they don't have the infrastructure to expand that footprint. So we would come in and teach them, just like an organization, just like a company, how to scale that and spread it across the state. So there's no point in reinventing the wheel. There are good people doing that work now. They just need to be exposed, funded, and supported.
I have a question, because here's my solution for homelessness. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I could solve the whole thing, but right now I think it's a combo of two things. Like, obviously, I would say there's a housing problem, but more importantly, a mental health problem, a drug problem, and then an enforcement problem. So I think if we had all the resources available, housing, drugs, jobs, mental health, if we had all that available, at a certain point, there has to be an enforcement, because I think that's, kindness turns into weakness sometimes. So a lot of these people, it's like an incentivization culture where they're paying them, they're allowing it, and sometimes they need to be told no. So I think, there could be trillions of dollars put into homelessness, but if there's no enforcement, like, we got you everything you need, we can give you all this, but you can't keep living on the street in Skid Row or something. So that's always been my thought.
I talked about that earlier today with regards to, like, enforcement. We're not allowing our police to police, right? Our police are afraid to police. They're not enforcing our laws because of the backlash, because it's not politically correct, because they don't have support from our mayors and our governor. I think our mayors need to come down a lot harder on our mayors. We need to support our men and women in uniform, and we need to empower them to actually police, to actually enforce our laws. Because if we don't have a safe society, we don't have a sustainable society.
Mm. I read a comment, and I have a similar question, or really, I guess I'm skeptical. Someone said, Caitlyn Jenner has, money, the Republican Party or Fox News backing her or whatever. What are you going to do to counter that? And that was my question. That's my question for you, is where, in order to vote last election, I got a lot of mail, and there's a ground game, there's an in-person game, there's millions of dollars that certain people have. And money is not everything, and I don't think it's important, but it does get you resources to reach the people of California. Since you hopped into the race fairly late, but still at a decent time, how are you going to get your name out there? How are you going to counter, the big
Sure.
money and the big corporations and stuff? And can you reach everybody in just a few
Yeah.
months?
So thankfully, God put me in a position over the last 20 years so that my line of business is marketing, branding, and getting people exposure. I couldn't be in a better industry to actually take a startup like a new brand and actually promote it, right? Not only that, I've spent the last 20 years negotiating media contracts. So I can take a dollar and do more with a dollar than they can with 10. So
Mm,
I don't need the 100 million. I could take $10 million and do more with it than they can with 100 million because I know how to
mm.
use it. I know how to target. I know how to specialize. I know how to be very strategic. So do we need money? Yes, the campaign needs money. The campaign needs to be people funded 100%. But you can trust that every single dollar that you donate to the campaign will be used to spread the word, and I'll be able to multiply it 10x. And so we're going to be able to do a lot more with a lot less than a lot of these people.
That's a really good point, especially doing marketing and stuff myself. I remember when they were trying to pin Trump, Russia, and the big scoop was Russia ran these ads. They had Bernie Sanders ads, Hillary ads. They were these dumb ads, and I saw 20 shares, and they're like, they spent this much money for a million like impressions, and I'm thinking I do that for free every week. They're so wildly inefficient, not just them, but the other campaigns. It's a great
Look.
answer. If I don't want to infringe on, I'm not a guy, I'm not an open secrets or anything, but like what is the budget or the goal, or like how much are you willing to spend of your own money, how much of it is person funded, and like what's a goal, because I don't even know what's
Yeah.
reasonable or a good idea for like a 3-month campaign.
So when I get asked that question with regards to how much money do we need, the simple answer is enough. No more and no less than what it's going to take to get our word out and to build the movement. So I don't have that number yet because we have so much earned media going in our favor right now. So for those that don't know, there's two types of media, right? There's paid media and earned media. Paid is everything in advertising, Google, Facebook, TV, radio, print, all that. That's paid media. The other part is earned media, and that doesn't cost you anything. So we have a very strategic plan on how to generate a lot of earned media. We're calling in a lot of favors, and we're going to get that, and that's 10x every dollar anyway. And then on the paid media side, it's just enough to get the word out. So we don't have a number per se, but I do know that every little bit helps, and we're going to stretch it, and we're going to move it, and we're going to do more with it than any other candidate can. So I don't have the number. I just know that we're going to continue to watch our exposure, our visibility, and we're only going to ask for exactly what we need, no more.
I think you have something going in your favor for this election that, in my opinion, no candidate has jumped out to me as like a huge front runner. Obviously, Caitlyn Jenner may be the most famous person, but I don't think her engagement online is impressive for how big of a star she is. And I honestly think she's not tapping into the left wing. And I think a lot of the right wing is not feeling, her campaign. So I think there is a void where if this hits 51% of the vote or 50%, the winner's not going to have as much as maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger did. I think it's going to be a lower threshold that people are going to need because the vote's going to be split so many ways because there's 10 different campaigns that have pretty grassroots. On that note, I want to ask you, what are and I just thought of this question, but 3 things that you think the Republican Party does awesome that you love about the Republican Party, and then 3 things that you think that they're lacking that need to change about the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's about 3 specific things on either side. What I do know about the Republican Party is that honestly, it's on life support. The Republican Party, people are losing faith in the Republican Party. We are sending sheep into this pit when we should be sending lions. We're not lifting up candidates that are strong, that are willing to fight, that are willing to toe the line. We're seeing a lot of Republicans that are whimpering, that are bending and shifting, and we're seeing a lot of Republicans who are not staying true to those core Republican values, which is sad because it's not convenient and they want to stay in office. And I think what the Republican Party needs is more of people like me that will toe the line, that have no special interests, that are not from politics, don't want to stay in politics long term, are not looking for politics as a career, but are looking to go in, do the people's business, represent the people, and then turn it over to the next generation of people that will be relevant for that time. I often say I'm not the candidate from 20 years ago, and I might not be the candidate from 20 years from now, but I believe I'm the right candidate now. And I believe that the Republican Party needs a new face. It needs new representation. It needs innovation and new ideas.
Yeah, like as far as what policies have you seen them slip on? Like you said, there's not a lot of fighters. I think people like Trump early on, not just for his rhetoric, but I mean, you're used to plain, boring people, and you're used to people who kind of just they have no oomph to them. But like, what have you seen certain policies? Like, I know for me, I could answer after you, but there's certain things that I believe in, and certain fiscally conservative things I believe in that I feel like the GOP does a good lip service job, but when push came to shove, they kind of caved. I'll give you an example just to give you during March and April of the pandemic, I understand it was a difficult decision, but you have McConnell and Trump, essentially print trillions of dollars, which is one of the things that led, I think, Venezuela to hyperinflation. And when you shut down business, print money, I mean, it's a very risky thing to do. And it seems like they don't even talk about it or care. So things like we're fighting socialism, and they're telling me how strong they are. And then when it comes time to do it, they don't really do it. That's one for me that I see them kind of dropping the ball
That's
on.
the
But
thing.
any specific policies you see that are like, well, they're not really doing much?
Well, there's a lot of backdoor politics that are happening. Trump, as he left office, we saw a lot of that authority that he have kind of leave, and he started to do things that just seemed a little out of place and inconsistent with his entire platform. Um, I, you know, I have conversations regularly with people who think he could have done more with regards to voting integrity, could have done more to fight to stay in office. The position that he took on the vaccine status and rushing to get it out there, and then becoming a huge advocate for getting it, and then his daughter followed suit, and they almost became the poster child for getting the vaccine. I mean, those are inconsistent with our values and beliefs in a free society and being able to choose and have freedoms and liberties. And it just, again, that's why I think people have lost faith in politicians, and why we need a new generation of people that come from outside of politics to go in and fix things. So, and I represent that, but I know there are a lot of people behind me that are excited to actually run for office and to implement this type of change.
Got you. I'm trying to do a three-way debate, either on here, it might be the easiest way, and get a few other candidates. I know there's quite a few. Would you be willing to come on and have a conversation or debate? Because I think that would be one way to not only get excitement, but to see people's ideas and kind of personalities clash, and get people more hyped up for certain things.
100%. My favorite setting is a debate or panel discussion. Getting up in front of crowds and giving a monologue is just not me. I like to engage. I like the energy. I have nothing to hide. I'm completely transparent. So anytime that you were able to get a group of us together so we could debate, have intellectual conversation, and challenge each other's thinking, I'm in.
One thing about office, because I think it's really important to get new people in. But people ask me, you should run for office, you should run for office. I'm not interested in it, but if I was, I probably think I would study law or have a team around me that understood law, because I think a lot of politics, a lot of lawyers, a lot of legal stuff, a lot of prosecution, or, and like someone like a DeSantis, I was reading his Wikipedia, he had a few of those things in his back pocket, which probably helped him adapt to the political world, because it can be very similar. Do you have any experience or a team of people who are, into legal stuff and ready to take on like these huge bills? And is that a concern as someone that's new or not?
Yeah. So as a business owner, I'm surrounded with lawyers, and I know tons of people in law. But more importantly, one of the biggest sectors that we play in next to health is education, and we have a lot of people who teach law, who teach constitutional law, who are at the forefront of teaching policy, and are extremely opinionated on policy. And then as an entrepreneur, I sit at the table with CEOs and executives from large companies who are innovating in their space, right? In energy, education, healthcare, technology. So I've already begun to assemble a coalition of individuals that would sit down and help to write policy, help to help to innovate, help to address a lot of our problems with fire, with water, with tax reform, all of that. Like I did that from the beginning before I even decided that I was going to say yes. I needed to understand the team that I would start to build around me, and thankfully, I've built an entire career being at the table with some of the most influential people in America. Many of them California residents who are just like waiting for the opportunity to sit at that table to talk about changing things.
I'm just curious, and then I have another question. But how many employees is your company? Like, how big is it? Just
We have
curious.
50 people here in our headquarters in Irvine, California, and then we have about 20 freelancers that work around the country.
Okay, cool. I read a comment because I've been reading some. Someone said, I'm not sure if they were black or not. I think they were. Not that it matters, but they said, what are you specifically going to do for the black community? And I want to ask this. Like, I understand you'll be the governor for all Californians, but there's a lot of niche groups like obviously white, but black, Hispanic. Like, what do you think is the best thing for certain communities and like that's the type of thing? Do you look at it like I'm gonna just be the governor for all Californians, or as I think you're Hispanic as well, yeah, is there a specific message or a goal for like, yeah, I don't know.
People want representation. People want people that reflect, the especially governor. We've never had, or we don't often have politicians that reflect their constituents, right? If you look at California, it's minority. It's 40% Hispanic, but if you look at the other minorities, it's majority minority, and that representation doesn't go all the way up to Sacramento. So, like, I'm the best representation of California than anyone running right now. I mean, you have, my family are immigrants. 50% Mexican, 50% Cuban, 100% American. So my story is very consistent with California. The American dream, fleeing a communist country to pursue the American dream, entrepreneurial. So what I'm able to do and how I'm going to be able to connect with the Hispanic community is it's the same message in a different messenger, and sometimes that makes all the difference. So when I talk about border control and immigration law, a lot of times you have these older Caucasian elites talking about strict borders. Hispanics don't want to hear that because it's in the wrong messenger. But if I come and I'm able to talk on the importance and significance of strong immigration laws and having a safe border, that message resonates differently with a demographic that I can relate to and they can relate to me.
Yeah, and it's a tough question because I know on one hand, everybody's American. On the other hand, I know Trump tried to, he did certain like black policies and Hispanic policies. I'm actually part Puerto Rican, but I'm mostly white European. It was a little weird to see him do an American Dream plan focused towards Latinos, where I get the sentiment of it, but I think then a lot of people also feel slighted. So it's a tough thing to weigh in on. I will say this, and then real quick in the comments, this Diego for governor guy, he's like, I'm this, I'm that. Who, I'm not sure who that is. Are you running, or I don't know. I'm just curious. Somebody let me know who that guy is, and maybe I'll bring him on after. But my question is, all right, say like we'll take not even say race, but like a lot of the very dangerous areas of Oakland or Los Angeles. There's a heavy minority population. These are some of the more dangerous areas in SoCal or North Cal. How do you stop crime? How do you crack down on crime? I know you mentioned the police thing a lot, but that seems to be a problem, not just in California, but around the country, where there's certain neighborhoods that the death rate is high. And I've volunteered in certain neighborhoods, and you go into the schools and there's children all over the walls, memorials of children who died. And it's so sad. And the media doesn't care because there's no police or white angle to it, I think, or Republican angle. So they kind of just brush it up. How do you clean up some of these neighborhoods or at least make them safer for the residents?
Yeah, so there's short term and long term, right? I always say that a lot of the problems that we face as a society, those are the symptoms of a deeper disease, right? So when we look at homelessness and we look at crime, we look at mental health, a lot of and drug abuse, and we look at crime in general. Those are the symptoms of a bigger problem, which are broken homes. And we don't look at that as a long-term thing. We need to focus on incentivizing the family unit again. We don't have that. The government has set up incentives for broken families. We'll pay you more if the father of your children doesn't live at home. We'll incentivize you for a broken home. Like, that's tearing at our moral fabric, right? Like, that's the disease. And so we need to do twofold. We need to address the symptoms that are the now, and find solutions to all of those problems. But ultimately what we need to do is we need to reinforce family again. We need to reinforce the family unit. We need to reconstruct that. We need to incentivize families that stay together and give them the tools and the resources to do that, to become entrepreneurs, to be independent and not depend so much on the government. We've created a society of individuals who are more incentivized to stay home than to go back to work right now. We have small businesses that cannot open because people would rather get an unemployment check than to actually show up for work. It's broken. The whole system's broken. But with regards to crime, I mean, we need to support our police, and we need to allow them to police. And we need our police departments to look more like the communities they serve. So, like, we need to look at our hiring practices and say, hey, you know what, in these inner cities, we need police officers that look like the communities they serve, so that there can be a healthy dialogue there, so the police are not feared but welcomed in the communities. But ultimately, a lot of the crime that happens is a byproduct of weak leadership, weak mayors, and a police force that's not equipped to enforce the laws. I would change all that.
I think that's a good answer. I was talking to somebody whose son is a policeman in Long Beach, and he was saying that his son sees just on the job that in certain I won't say that the city's not segregated, but you do have certain neighborhoods where you have Black and Hispanic. And he said in the Hispanic neighborhoods, there's more of like a family unit. And he said in the Black one, he's like there isn't that family cohesive unit all the time, and it does lead to, I think, there's not a community, and when there's not a community, people stray, and when people stray, they're lost in doing stuff. So he had noticed that, just where I like that answer, and I think the media is always like, that's a right-wing talking point. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with wanting the family to stay together and the fathers in the house. So I have a question. I don't know how much time you have, but there's somebody in the chat. I don't know who this guy is. Maybe you know him. I don't know. Maybe he's a competitor, Diego for governor, but he's saying he wants to come in. Would you be willing to debate him, or would you rather, like, if you're in a rush, I might just bring him on after, because I don't even really know who he is, but people are crying. You're afraid to have him on? I'm like, relax. We'll take it piece by piece.
Well, I'm not afraid to have anyone on. I would love for you to have Gavin Newsom on right now. That would be a healthy debate. I would love to have that conversation right now. So, but yeah, you're more than welcome to bring him on. I have probably about 5 minutes worth of battery. You caught me in the parking lot. So
no worries. So yeah, well, I guess he didn't even send me an invite. So that Diego guy, I mean, if he wants to send an invite, I'll have him on after, since his phone's dying. But yeah, I guess, and since you got 5 minutes, I'll let you just kind of make your pitch and stuff. I think, I tried to think of unique, creative questions to ask. I like what you said about medical freedom. I think a lot of what you said was on point. And now the question is, getting that win. So I guess, how are you going to make it happen? Any last words and any last pitch?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, there are a lot of people coming into the race. Some of them are celebrities. Some of them are in the media. Some of them are career politicians. We're in this mess because of decisions we've made in the past. And so if we think about traditional logic and we think about electing people we traditionally elect, we're going to run into the same problems perpetually over and over again. And so whether you agreed with Trump as a person, as a policymaker, whatever, what you can say is that the country was in a better financial state when he was in office, because he saw things differently. He saw things as an entrepreneur. And so what we need to do is we need a different approach. My grandfather fled a communist country. There's nobody running for office that knows more intimately than I do what it means to have all of your freedoms taken from you. And right now in California, we're living as close to being a communist country as a communist country can get. We have, our churches shut down. We have, the government in control of the media. They're indoctrinating our kids at school. Businesses were shut down. And now they're trying to force compliance of an experimental drug. That is communist at its core level. And so what we need to do is we need to rethink our approach. We need to rethink the candidates that we elect and get behind. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a family man. I met my wife when she was 17. I was 19. We've been together 26 years. 24 of them have been, we've been married. I have 5 beautiful children, 4 of my own, 1 adopted. We were foster care parents for a season. We know the value of family unit. We know the importance of having a moral compass. And I bring all of that, my 20 years of being a successful entrepreneur. I bring all of my contacts, all of my affiliates, all of my connections. I bring my heart. I bring the, my spirituality, my faith. I bring it to office because I think more than ever, California has lost its soul. This is not just a fight for a political office. This is a fight for our souls and our soil. And we need somebody that's going to advocate for justice. And there's no one running that will do what I will do the way I will do it. And so it's time for change, and I'm that change.
Appreciate you. I just want to say thank you real quick to some super chats, Spicy Street Combos, Lisa Loves One, Linda, Maddie, The Real Andy Boutain, Moxie Mop, Rodrigo, and Yoshi. Appreciate y'all. And I want to say for the record, Anthony said he would debate, and the other guy is completely gone. So, I mean, the Diego guy isn't even in my, because people are like, he doesn't want to debate. I'm like, dude, the Diego guy just disappeared. So he's welcome to come on after. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, man. Good speaking with you.
You as well. And I'm going to try to get 2 or 3 people on just because I love the debate format. And,
sure.
This was just off top. I'm drinking a tea. That's just how my life works sometimes. But appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck. And I'll do what I can to try to organize events to, raise awareness. And also, I think, put ideas to the test, because that's all I could think of now to answer. I was impressed with a lot of answers, and appreciate you for your time. God bless you.
Yeah,
and
appreciate you too, man. God bless you too. Take care.
You as well.